please take your seat. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the workshop, and thank you all for joining us today. This workshop will focus on cloud computing and mobile internet. As all of you know, cloud computing and mobile internet are the hot topics in the last several years. These new emerging technologies are not only hot topics for discussion, but also the power that have changed the ICT industry. Our hardware industry is changed. The software industry is changing now. Even the business model is quite different from that in the past. In this workshop, we invite speakers from China, Kenya, and Portugal to deliver their ideas and share their experience of practice. The first speaker is Professor Tao Xiaofeng. He is at Beijing University of Posts and Telecommunications. The second speaker is from Kenya, Ms. Fiona Asanga, CEO of Telecommunications Service Providers Association of Kenya. Next speaker is Mr. Paulo Casada, Vice President of Eurocloud. He is also the professor in the University of Porto. Also, we have invited Vice President of Inspur Group Corporation, a member of the Open Data Center Alliance, Mr. Hu Leijun, to give the speech. This workshop is divided in two parts. 4 speakers will present their speech for 15 minutes each. Then we will have 30 minutes for questions and discussion. Remote participation are welcome to join us. In the cloud computing era, the business model changes a lot. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and also software as a service. So everything, including the security, the storage, will be provided as a service. This kind of change will bring us great benefits. We will have an information infrastructure with more scalability and more reliability and more cost effectiveness, etc. However, we still face some challenges and difficulties in cloud computing. Security is a problem. Data privacy, I think most people will concern about that. Also, we can see from the industry, we can see the standards may be a problem. From the end user, they think the portability and the interoperability will be a big challenge for the cloud computing. Though we have faced all of these questions and problems, the speed of adoption of cloud computing is great. There is some numbers you can see from this slide. By the year 2016, more than 36% storage will go to cloud computing. And the market of cloud computing will be reached more than 200 billion US dollars in the year of 2016. And we can also see from 2010, many countries have launched a national cloud computing plan and strategy. China have launched Cloud Service Innovation Suggestion in November 2010. The United States also launched the Federal Cloud Computing Strategy in February 2011. European Commission adopted a strategy for unleashing the potential of cloud computing in Europe in September 2012. That is a very brief background of today's workshop. Now, we would like to invite our speakers to share their experience in practice. First, I would like to invite Professor Tao Xiaofeng to give a speech. Professor Tao is from Beijing University of Posts and Telecommunications. He is also the director of National Engineering Laboratory of the Mobile Communications. His speech will focus on the development of mobile internet in China, and also will emphasize the influence brought by the mobile internet. Professor Tao, please. Thank you.
Excuse me? Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tao from Beijing University of Post and Telecommunication. I'm a member of CCIT CAST. Every time when I watch this kind of figures, I'm very happy because my background is wireless communication, is wireless. So you can see the data shows us we are already in the time of mobile internet. For example, in China, the mobile internet has gained its popularity from the 2009. It was well to note that from the year 2012, people prefer to use mobile devices get connected with the internet, and people will go even further in future. In other words, mobile communication is a promising industry because of its increasing demand and rapid development. Actually, mobile internet, we can look at mobile internet as a kind of extension of internet, maybe someone argue. With the mobile internet, we don't have to keep staying with a cable. Instead, we can access the internet with mobile devices at home, working in the vehicle, on the way, and even on the subway. In the subway, almost everywhere in the world. This is to say, we have more chance to access the internet with the mobile devices. Nowadays, various kinds of services have been provided for mobile users, such as social networks, online pay, video broadcast, online games, and so on. The popularity of mobile internet results from the rapid development of mobile communication. Especially the data rate of the third generation, you can see 3G. The third generation, for example, WCDMA, CDMA 2000, TD-SCDMA, has 2 megabits per second data rate. For 4G, at least 100 megabits per second. For 5G, maybe in the near future, 1 gigabit per second. In our trial system, maybe 10 gigabits per second for 5G. At the same time, you can see the short-range access technology, for example, WLAN, wireless LAN. The data is about 54 megabits per second. Of course, the coverage is a little bit small. And nowadays, also a new technology, named Li-Fi. The Li-Fi can use the light communication, use the light bump to make the communication. Nowadays, the data is about 150 megabits per second. Of course, it's still on the way. Here, the slide shows some some trial systems. In the year 2006, we established a trial network. The data is about 122 megabits per second. Nowadays, you can see the 4G, the data is about 100 megabits, but this happened in the year 2006. About 3 years later, the year 2009, you can see our trial system can reach 1,010 megabits per second data rate. This is also maybe the initial step of the 5G. From this year, our government also launched some projects, for example, 5G project. And at that time, the data rate is about 10 gigabits per second. In summary, mobile internet already has the ability to support high-speed environment and can provide high data rate services, such as HDTV, high television, and 3-dimensional TV. And mobile internet, from my point of view, mobile internet and cloud computing are perfectly suitable for each other. And here, mobile internet is a solid foundation of cloud computing. On the one hand, the computation capacity and the storage capacity of cloud computing greatly improve the performance of mobile devices that are connected to the mobile internet. Many applications require a large amount of data computation and data exchange. They need the help of the cloud computing, which greatly improve the user experience of mobile internet. And for internet scenario, sometimes the people want to enjoy the good experience. On the other hand, the mobility and popularity of mobile devices bring to the cloud computing more user and more real-time data, which in turn changes the functionalities of cloud computing. Here is our future 5G trial network. Let's forget about some technical terms. I think here you can see we can let the cloud computing as a platform for 5G. And it's make use of both great computation capacity and storage capacity of cloud computing. Use cloud computing, the function of cloud computing act as an entity of a base station of 5G. Of course, we have get some award. For example, we get ACM Mobicom award in this area. The development of mobile internet has brought a lot of changes of China. By the end of last year, the year 2013, the number of mobile internet users had reached 500 million. The maximum size of mobile internet is about 17 billion US dollar. And the smartphone sales increased to 320 million, only in the year 2013. In terms of China, mobile internet has promoted the development of other industry and services, and also provide some job opportunities, and also some promote the development of other industry and services. For citizen, for ordinary person, mobile internet also bring about a lot of changes. Nowadays, no one can delay the great convenience of mobile phone or pads. For example, this time when I want to the airport, I use a taxi booking. We call it DD taxi booking. You just book a taxi through our mobile phone, and then a taxi driver is waiting for in downstairs, and then I catch the taxi and to the airport. So using mobile devices such as phone, we can stay in touch with the world. We can order food, film, and we also can also book a taxi and create the latest news. Mobile internet also bring about some new job opportunities. For example, some part-time job, write some blogs or microblogs, or run an online shop, or develop some apps. Mobile internet also bring about some new chance to education. For example, I want to take China Open University, for example. Usually, we want to establish some digital laboratory. You can see here, there's some e-books, some literature, and some papers or some others. And nowadays, when we use mobile internet, we can use for example, some mobile terminal. We can use some apps. And here, I also want to show you some two stories. One story happened in Turfan. It's very far away from Beijing. It's the west part of China. It's about 4,000 kilometers from Beijing. And some farmers sell grapes online. And each year, each farmer can earn about $1,600 US dollars. And the second story is about fruit. And this happened in Guangxi, also very far away from Beijing. And some farmers, just like I said, use internet to sell fruits, and income increased by about 16,000 US dollars. Of course, all this could be happened in Alibaba cloud platform, and I was very happy this time in the open ceremony. Some officers or some experts also tell us something about Alibaba. And mobile internet bring a great number of changes, chance to Chinese internet companies. It bring more profits, more users, more products and services. For example, Tencent is a Chinese company famous for its instant messenger, QQ. Before the year 2009, Tencent QQ has only 50 million online users. After the popularity of mobile internet, its online user has increased by 4 times. Moreover, mobile internet also bring 396 million active users to WeChat, and another project of Tencent. Without mobile internet, I don't think Tencent can make such an amazing success. Mobile internet also promotes the emergence of startup companies. In China, a lot of startup companies such as Xiaomi, UC, Bruso, and others have set up since the emergence of mobile internet. Mobile internet, of course, also brings some challenges. And just now, Professor Lin also mentioned the security. You can see malicious software, the number, you can see the different numbers. The first number, in 1 year, the malicious software rose from 14,000 to 400,000 in a year. I mean, in the year 2012. And also some fake Wi-Fi. When we have conference here, we also aware about some fake Wi-Fi. And the second challenge, I think, is expense. because some wireless base stations are much more expensive, and as well as co-network. And here I also want to share some knowledge about our future national mobile internet program. And in last February, our government, three ministry. The first one is the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. The second is National Development and Reform Commission. The third is the Ministry of Science and Technology, called MOST, launched IMT 2020 promotion group. And the objective is want to establish the platform. This platform, the mission of this platform is to promote the research and development of 5G, and also want to looking for some global cooperation in this area. And also want to establish a demo system. For example, the data rate is about 10 gigabits per second. And of course, there are also some technical terms. I want to know this kind of technical terms. And I want to use this slide to make a conclusion of my slides, my presentation. Mobile internet brings some changes and opportunities to us no matter daily life or education, for both people in urban areas, also in rural areas, both for big companies or startup companies, both for developing country or developed country. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Tao. Your speech will really give us a nice view about how China benefits from mobile internet. Mobile internet does really bring significant changes to various aspects of social life today. Applying cloud computing and mobile internet technology give us opportunities to boost the economy with less cost and more efficiency. Also, it will be very helpful to the development in the remote and rural areas. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Ms. Fiona Asanga. He's from Kenya, CEO and Board Secretary of the Telecommunications Service Providers Association of Kenya. The speech will give an introduction of Kenya Internet Exchange Point and how this organization enhances internet use with fast, efficient, and inexpensive service. The talk will last about 15 minutes. Ms. Fiona, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. To quickly just continue with the discussions we've started, I'll briefly just share on what the Exchange Point has been doing over the years. Basically, the Kenya Internet Exchange Point was set up in 2001 with three main functions. One was to keep the local internet traffic local. Second was to improve on communication speeds and reduce latencies that arise as a result of tromboning of traffic onto international links and back into the country. And third was to give end users an enjoyable online experience. And over the years, the Exchange Point has grown and continued to increase in terms of services that we are offering. We have gone out of our way to work with global content providers to be able to bring as much international content as possible to the local scene, localizing of international content. However, when it comes to mobile internet use and cloud computing, we are not unique to the challenges that have been highlighted. Just to mention, Kenya has a population of about 48 million. And of the 48 million, 70% have access to mobile phones. And of those who have access to mobile phones,
and without some activity,
the population of the country. So we could say almost half of the Kenyans are able to access internet services via various means. There is a lot of dependency on the mobile phone because it's the easiest last mile solution that the customer can use in terms of accessing the internet. As a result, there is a lot of drive and demand by the consumer, basically consumer-driven demand for applications and services over the mobile phones in large parts of the country. Some of the challenges that we experience in Kenya that have created these is the challenges of infrastructure deployment. Because of some areas being so sparsely populated, a lot of operators are not laying infrastructure into those areas, especially for internet services, but you'll find the mobile operators are in those parts of the country and are offering services, and so the mobile phone then can double as an internet access device as well because of access to the mobile infrastructure. So there are challenges of last mile solutions. There are also, they've been for a long time, the challenges of the cost of bandwidth. Though when we compare the cost of bandwidth in Kenya vis-a-vis other countries in the region, especially within the East African region, the price of internet access in Kenya is significantly low, but it's still not low enough for every Kenyan to be able to afford access. The other challenge that has been experienced is system interoperability of web and mobile application platforms. And that is something that you find a lot of developers are now coming up. In Kenya, we've seen an increase in the developer space because the local developers are the best suited to be able to address the challenge of interoperability of the different platforms over which services could be delivered. And we are also seeing a lot of government services being introduced and the mobile part of it being incorporated into the whole solutions. We've seen companies like SAP coming in to provide solutions that offer mobile-based access for the rural community. And these are helping, for example, in the health sector. There is an mHealth solution by SAP that is able to keep track of maternal care and help in even registering of the birth as soon as a child is born. And those are the kind of solutions that we are seeing coming up more within our space as a result of the mobile phone being the preferred gadget or device for last mile access. Other challenges are around issues of content development. Because of the need to be able to get services online, there's also a need to be able to have the content available, and this is something that is being worked on a public-private partnership with the government to address the content development so that we can ensure that there's sufficient services on the internet that can be accessed over the mobile phone for the general public. Otherwise, without the services being available, then it becomes a bit difficult to be able to talk about the impact that mobile internet has had and the relevance of cloud computing within our space, because there has to be content that is being put onto the cloud, either by the service providers who are offering these services to the public, that's the different government agencies, and also by the public putting on their content onto the different cloud platforms that are available. Another challenge that we have observed within our space is hosting. The truth is we do not have proper data centers outside of South Africa on the African continent. And so there are a few that have come up. There are a few companies that are trying to set up data centers. But with that, in that kind of scenario, then there is a lot of demand for cloud hosting services, because where else can we host our content? And part of it is as a result of developmental challenges we are facing in terms of ensuring the infrastructure we need to host properly is available. Issues of power are still a challenge. I know in my country, I'll talk about Kenya because I'm a Kenyan, it's possible for you to have a power blackout that goes on for 12 hours. It's possible for you to have power that is fluctuating, and so your house lights or your office power system is on and off like disco lights. And that is the kind of environment that makes it very difficult to have a proper hosting facility, because then you'd have to invest significantly into a power backup system that would be able to last up to 48 hours. Which is a bit of a challenge in terms of the investment required to be able to have this in place. So when we look at the benefits vis-a-vis the challenges, as a country, we have a lot more to do to be able to overcome the challenges we face so that we can be able to benefit the most possible benefits we could achieve out of cloud computing. Mobile internet has been our best strong point, and we hope that we could be able to ride on this. As a result of that, those challenges, some of the things that have been done, taking Kenya as a case study on how ICT infrastructure is being managed and deployed to ensure that Kenyans are able to benefit from online services, have been developing appropriate policy and guiding documents in terms of how the country is going to move forward. So we do have in place, for example, a national broadband strategy. We've got an ICT master plan that looks into infrastructure and capacity within the country, so that then we are able to see how shared services, using of cloud computing, using of mobile internet access can all be maximized to be able to deliver the most possible services by the government online. The other thing that has been done is the government has taken the approach of the public-private partnership as the main way to move forward. So government is no longer putting in full budgets for ICT deployment, but the Ministry of ICT is leading the process in developing public-private partnerships for the different ICT deployments that have been undertaken in the country. Case in point, the Team Submarine Cable is a consortium that is owned by both the Kenyan government and telecommunication companies to be able to provide redundancy on the submarine cables to the country. We have the national fiber optic infrastructure that is again owned by the government, run and operated by a private sector company, but is also now being opened up to be owned by other telecommunication operators as well. And these have been able to get us, at least right now, we have fiber connectivity across the entire country to the key governing locations where these are what we call in our country counties. So every county in Kenya is connected to fiber from one service provider or another. The other thing that the country has done is encouraging shared infrastructure. Through the Communication Authority of Kenya, operators did sign a code of practice that would be able to foster the sharing of infrastructure by various operators. And so with that in place, it means operators do not have to go and lay their own infrastructure where already there is infrastructure, but they could share ducts, cable ducts and masts from operators who are already in those locations. Then a number of other policy interventions have been made by the ministry, by the cabinet, and these are led by the president. These have included the incorporation of the construction of ICT infrastructure alongside all other infrastructures that are being deployed, and that is from this year moving forward. all roads being developed are being developed with cable ducts along the roads and across the roads, which should be able to accommodate and make it easy for infrastructure to be deployed. We have projects such as the standard gauge railway that is going to run from Mombasa right through to Uganda, and this is also being built to accommodate ICT infrastructure, cable ducts along and across it. We have the National Corridor pipeline project that is running from southern Sudan through Uganda, Kenya to Mombasa, where crude oil from the southern Sudanese region will be shipped off for export. And this entire project is accommodating the deployment of ICT infrastructure alongside it. So there will be spaces for cable ducts. It will accommodate cable ducts, it will accommodate spaces for masts and ICT termination equipment alongside the project. So those have been the interventions that the government of Kenya and the private sector have been working on together to ensure that we are able to facilitate the deployment of ICT infrastructure as much as possible. And that means when these projects are run alongside the current national fiber infrastructure project that is already deployed, we'll have sufficient redundancy, and it is hoped that we will continue to use the mobile phones and mobile infrastructure for the last mile solutions, where especially in the areas where fiber will not, it's not easy to dig because we have the northern part of the country that is very rocky, and in those areas it will be very difficult to dig fiber. So then mobile access interventions come into play. Some of the strategies that have made cloud and mobile internet contribute significantly to the growth of our country have been that have been considered include looking into how cloud services can be hosted within our country. We are talking to companies like Cloudflare, for example, and asking them to bring in most of their traffic into the Kenya Internet Exchange Point. And so this is where the exchange point then begins to become a valuable tool in ensuring that the consumer gets an enjoyable experience, in reducing the speed of communication and reducing the costs of bandwidth to the end users and to service providers within our market space, because by encouraging the international hosting organizations to bring that content and peer, like the rest of the peering community at the exchange point, we have brought in value to the end users, we've brought in value to the community as a whole, and to the rest of the peering community. We are also working closely with application developers to be able to continue developing more mobile-based applications, because it's going to, for us, we see that as the easiest way of being able to offer online services, like I mentioned earlier, and these are going to continue to be the tool for access, because it's much easier to teach someone who already has a phone how to get onto the internet, especially the older generations who are already using the phone and who are using it for SMS, to use the phone for other services as well that come on a mobile platform in the format of an SMS, but the back end is really a website where all the data is collected and can be used and accessed on the web platform to offer public and citizen services. We are focusing as a country largely on public-private partnerships, and these are being opened across the board. In our ICT master plan, we have adapted a principle where even if a foreign company has to come to help us in deploying solutions within enterprise solutions within the country, they must work with a local organization. There must be local inputs and transfer of skills at the local level, so that we are at the same time building the capacity we require to be able to support the services that we develop or that are developed for our region, and to be able to gain the benefits of mobile internet access and of cloud computing. Cloud computing is something that the government is going to depend on heavily moving forward. When you go through the ICT Master Plan, which is a public document and accessible on the Ministry of ICT website, the Kenya Ministry of ICT website, and it clearly details how cloud computing will be preferred as a means of managing the services and the data that will be collected. And I think with that, those would be my few interventions, because everything else on what the internet mobile internet can do and what cloud computing is doing has been shared, and I am in agreement with what has already been presented before me. Thank you.
Thanks to Fiona for sharing with us the valuable experience. And I think access to the internet with affordable service is very important to the cloud computing and in developing countries. She and her organization really make a great step moving forward. Thank you again. Because Miss Fiona Asanga have to leave to the airport right now. I would like to invite the executive secretary of China Association for Science and Technology, Ms. Wu Haiying, to present a gift for her impressive speech. Please, yeah. Thank all of you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You can. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Paulo Casada. He's from Portugal, Vice President of Eurocloud. He will discuss how can developing countries benefit from the experience of a European adoption of cloud computing, especially the European cloud strategy. He would begin his talk with a brief description of the European-funded project, Cloud for Europe, and address the main challenge and the priorities of the European cloud strategy. Mr. Paulo Casada, you have the floor, please.
For having me here, for inviting me to participate. It's really an honor. Well, it was really a challenge for me to prepare my presentation, because as this picture shows, it's not really easy to identify what could be the right priorities. This is the Human Development Index from 2014, so it's really easy to see that there are very huge differences between the countries in all over the world, and obviously the priorities are very different. So it was quite a challenge to identify a set of priorities that could help us create here in this workshop a solid ground for helping foster cloud computing as an enabler for create smarter communities and smarter cities. So I have decided to develop this presentation, trying to give you a perspective of someone that has worked on the cloud computing topic in the last 4 years on the Eurocloud Association, but also working closely with the European Commission on my role at the university. But nowadays I'm at the City Council in the Porto City, and I'm trying to help develop in the innovation area. So I have a perspective of a city, of a community, and then I will try to show you and to share with you some results of the strategy that at European level we are developing. So as I've said, it was a challenge, and for instance, it was quite easy to say that for some of the developing world there are a lot of ICT challenge, as it was presented by Fiona. Starting from the technical infrastructure, talking about the skills of the human resources, the high cost of telecommunications, but most important is that in my perspective there are a lot of very interesting use cases, especially on the mobile world. For instance, this is an example of a technicians on Zambia, which is installing telecommunications equipment, and if you look at this example, we are talking about a country that was able to grow their mobile penetration from 500,000 mobile devices to almost 3 million devices in only 4 years, okay, for a population of 12 million inhabitants. But as Fiona also said, in Kenya we have almost 70% of the population already having access to this mobile infrastructure, which in my view is fundamental to start talking about other kind of services on top of this infrastructure, as I will share in the next slide. So when talking about future cities, future communities, everyone starts saying that the majority of the population is almost 8 million inhabitants will live in cities, will live in large urban areas. 70% of the population will live there, okay? And everyone starts by thinking about mega cities, okay? Every time, every person that talks about future cities, about future communities, starts by saying, okay, let's all start living in mega cities like Tokyo, like Shanghai, or even like Sao Paulo. Sorry. And this is very important because on these mega cities, on these large communities, we have a lot of devices, okay? We have these small examples from Kenya, from Zambia. A lot of the population is connected to the internet, but everywhere is not only the people that are connected to the internet, all the devices are connected. And this is important, why? Because devices produce data, okay? And data is fundamental for accountability, it's fundamental for developing cities, it's fundamental for developing communities, okay? Thanks to the computer capacities, we are able to use advanced analytics in order to be able to develop the right actions that will really have impact and will benefit our community, okay? So in order to develop smarter growth, sustainable growth, we have to start by connected all the devices, all our community. And here is where cloud computing can help us, okay? Due to its elasticity, this hybrid model, we are not talking only about large data centers, complex infrastructures, okay? We can apply the cloud computing model to smaller infrastructures, to more focused infrastructures, okay? We could have infrastructures where an application for the health sector is hosted together with an application for entertainment, for instance. And then obviously, hopefully, a cloud infrastructure is a more resilient infrastructure. And on top of this, we are also trying to figure out ways to have more security infrastructure. So we have data. Data together with computing capacity is really helping us. Is really helping our community to develop the right strategies to become a smarter and a sustainable community. So, what is the right strategy to? Thank you very much. To move forward and to create these smarter cities and these smarter communities. Okay. So, is the right answer for this the mega cities? As I have initially said, majority of people think about mega cities. So, I have made a very short survey on this, and it was very easy to see the numbers that doesn't lie. Okay. In Europe, for instance, we have only 2 mega cities, okay, which represents almost 5% of the population. In the United States is almost the same thing, and Brazil is also the same thing. Okay, 2 mega cities. In Brazil is different the percentage of population living in mega cities, but most important, and as I have initially said, okay, I'm giving you also the perspective of someone that is on the city, okay, or in the community, because this kind of strategies usually have to be managed by a city council or by someone that is managing a community. If we unconnect this so-called mega cities, in reality they are not really mega cities, they are a very large group of smaller cities. And for instance, in Europe and even in the United States, we quickly decrease the percentage of population that really is living on these mega cities. Okay, so if you take a look deep in this kind of analysis, in order to really try to figure out what is the profile of cities, the profile of communities that we are talking about. Okay, sorry. For instance, in Europe, almost 40% of the population lives in large urban areas. Okay. But 50% of these large urban areas are smaller than with 1 million of inhabitants. Okay, only 4% are larger than 5 million inhabitants. Okay, if we start looking at in the more close detail, what you realize is the larger percentage of population doesn't live in larger cities, really lives in small cities, small medium cities. Okay, once again, what I will try to highlight is that we need to connect not only people but also to connect cities, to connect communities. This is the basic principle to start developing these smarter communities and cities. The most interesting thing is that this is a perspective of what is happening in Europe, but the same thing happens in Brazil, and almost the same thing happens in the United States. Okay, unfortunately I don't have the numbers for Asia and for China, but this is an exercise that I will do when I return to home. But what I would like to highlight once again is that it's really important not only to connect people directly, but also to connect these cities in order to have access to a large set of information, data, as I've said, which is fundamental to create the right action plans for developing the cities. So, talking about future cities or future communities, we have to talk about future cities and communities that are connected. This is where I live, Porto. Okay, in order to be very easy to find me when you decide to visit me. As I've said, I was trying to give you this view of someone that is nowadays responsible for the innovation area in a city council, highlighting the role of the relevance of connecting people. As we have said, as we were able to see, this is important in Europe, this is important in Africa, this is important in Asia. So let's talk a little more about one of the main projects that Europe is developing. I'm representing the University of Porto in this Cloud for Europe. Is a flagship European funded project which aims to develop a set of use cases fostered by the public sector. Okay, so in my view, and I think that this is kind of things that we could also develop in several other areas, especially on developing countries. The public sector could have here a very important role, trying to figure out use cases that will help not only to foster the usage of cloud computing, but also to have industry and local companies working together in order to develop their economy. So this is the main goal of Cloud for Europe, to use cloud computing as a collaboration to identify solutions for very key cloud computing issues. We are using a pre-commercial procurement, which in my view is an excellent instrument, which defines a framework for collaborating between the public sector and also the industry, which is a model that in my view could also be used in several other areas, and I will explain a little more about that in the next slide. So this is a very large consortium with the research entities, public sector representatives. We have cities and agencies and research universities all over Europe. And the main goals of the project is very simple. Identify a set of obstacles that are creating barriers to develop cloud computing on the public sector. Once again, using the public sector as a tool to foster the cloud adoption. Define a set of services that will be developed in partnership with the industry, and use this investment to fund the innovative solutions that will solve the problems. Okay, we'll start by identify which are the problems that are affecting the development of cloud computing in Europe. and maybe we could do the same thing in Kenya, maybe we could do the same thing in China. Okay, start by identifying which are the problems, using the cloud, the public sector as a use case. Then, in partnership with local partners, the local entities, research entities, and also the industries, try to find out the best solutions to those problems. Okay, there are a very broad. In terms of agenda, there are a lot of areas in which we have applied our efforts, since from the data protection, security legislation, a lot of problems that in our cases are obstacles for developing the cloud in Europe. But once again, as I've said, we could do the same thing, but focusing on specific problems in each area. There are a set of almost 12 challenges that were initially defined, selected. Okay, obviously the project didn't have the funds to fund every area, so we have selected a smaller group. Well, first we even create a deeper study of the problems that we have identified, which we called horizontal services and piloting services. And then in the end, we will select 3 examples that will be funded. So as I have said, and this is very important in terms of the approach that was used. Okay, this is not a project in which the public sector defines, okay, this is the problem, where is the product to solve the problem. Okay, we are identifying challenges that in our view could be used to develop, to strengthen also the economy of the region or the country. Okay. This is a very open and clear method, okay, in which every company is invited to participate and to help the first stage to make a clear and open view of the problem, and then try to identify the strategy to solve the problem. Okay, in each phase, the number of companies will be reduced, because obviously there's always an evaluation of the capacity of the company to address the next phase, and then in the end, the consortium will buy the product to solve the solution. Okay. And this is an instrument, in my view, which is fundamental not only to help solve specific needs of the public sector, using cloud as an instrument, share the risk, okay, between the public sector and also the private sector, and obviously create solutions that will be able to foster the economy and to help put our startups and companies on the map. Okay, so only to summarize and to close my presentation, data is fundamental for create smarter, inclusive communities, large communities, small communities. In order to have data, we need to connect people, we need to connect devices, we need to connect that communities. Okay, in my view, that's a major priority. So thanks to the computing power, analytics, we will be able in the end to provide, to develop the right actions, and this is for me what cloud computing could be for future and smarter cities and communities. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks to Mr. Paulo Calzada, and thank you for sharing us the very useful opinion, and especially the cloud computing applied in the city management. I think it is very useful is a very useful area for the cloud computing technology. Actually, we already have started the cooperation between the Chinese cloud computing organization and the Eurocloud. And I think it is a very good example for both of us to promote the cloud computing technology between the developing countries and the developed countries. It's a very good example. Now, our fourth speaker is from INSPA Corporation Group. He will share with us a practical case on how to build a public information platform with the cloud computing and big data technology. The talk will last for 15 minutes. Mr. Hu Leijun, the floor is yours. Yeah.
So before my speaking, Ms. Fiona will live in, maybe she can take in some questions from the audience.
I wonder if you have any questions for Fiona Asanga, because she will leave right now. Okay. Yeah.
I think I can project. Good day. My name is Desiree Zachariah from Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean. Now, one of the things I'd like to know is, before Kenya embarked on their national effort, was this something that was entered into was it driven by the government? Was it driven by or was it a combined effort of both in terms of getting you to have your national IT strategy?
The development of the national ICT strategy began with the last government. We've recently gone through an election and we have a new government in place. It was an effort of the previous government to be able to have a guiding document that will assist in guiding how the industry will develop. So that initiative was from the previous government. What this government has done is incorporate the private sector in the development of that document, in the ownership of the strategy, and in the implementation. So right now it is by owned and being implemented by both government and the private sector.
And can I have a follow-up question? I'm sorry. I noticed that you indicated that your infrastructure, you've built your infrastructure so that you can quickly upgrade the connectivity by ensuring that you have ducts on the sides of the roads. Was that done? Was that done because you think that fiber optic will be continued, or are you looking towards having maybe micro connectivity? Micro connectivity mean microwave connectivity.
The building of ducts alongside the roads was as a result of pressure from the service providers, because we envisage that we will continue to use fiber connectivity for a long time as the main, the core infrastructure. But of that, for the last mile solutions, there are going to be a whole range of different technologies that will be deployed. However, to be able to connect, for example, the towns, the cities, we envisage running that on fiber for quite some time.
Liu Chuang from China.
Okay.
Okay. So my question, we last month we just come back from Kenya. We have very good cooperation with JINQUAT, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. So they and the JINQUAT is not formally announced this National Data Sharing Center established. So this is good news. However, that is the connection is pretty low, very low. Is extremely low. So we have the data site transfer very hard. Do you think in Kenya have a very good program to improve the connection? Thank you.
That's the connection at the university. We have the Kenya Educational Network that has been mandated to ensure that all the tertiary institutions and schools get internet connectivity. And I know that currently there is effort to improve on the quality of services to most of the universities who had preferred to use other service providers. Everybody is now all the academic institutions are being sent to KENET to give them the services. So I'm sure that is going to improve. And as the Service Providers Association, I'll actually take it on myself and just look into it to make sure that your center is getting sufficient connectivity.
Okay.
Great. Your help are very good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm afraid that she cannot catch up with the flight. So thank you again, Fiona. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Hu.
Okay. Good afternoon, friends. My name is Lei Jun Hu from Inspire. Inspire is actually a server vendor. Now it's the biggest server vendor in China. Today's topic is about the big data for public service application. Why we separate public service application from other applications? The reason is public service is much more from what we say, for example, electricity grid, for example, public health service for telecommunication and for education, and some government sector, pretty much like taxation, like public insurance. All those applications are running by some organizations, and the data, not like in public cloud computing, like Google, like Baidu, like Alibaba in China. The data is not created from public, not created from the consumer directly. It's created by the organizations themselves. They want to keep those information, those data inside their group, but on the other side, they have to utilize this data to create value, to provide a service to public. So this is the different. Maybe someone wants to say why we put them in private cloud. And I think private cloud is majority inside some organization for the industry. They create data, they using their own cloud computing platform and a big data platform to provide a service internally. They do not provide public service. So that is the difference. So based on this difference, we can see a lot of change if we want to use big data technology and cloud computing technology in this area, how we can do with it. As we know, the big data has changed everything. It's changed our behavior in a consuming area. For example, the search engine can direct you based on your words you search the internet to some dedicated online purchase website. And also they can use the massive data in the internet to recognize your voice more correctly than before. And they also can create new business model like internet microfinancial, like personalized healthcare. Those or new model of service, new model of business they created based on the big data analysis. And why we have this ability? Because the volume of big data, the variety of big data, the velocity of the big data, and the value potentially contained in the massive data, giving us a chance to find more deeply chance we can use for the business and for the service we can provide to the public. In the last series, data becoming explosion. We can see 90% of current data was produced in last 2 years. And in the year 2030, 25 petabyte data was created per day. Based on this kind of situation, we will see if the public service began to utilize the new technology, what is the progress? If we want to looking at it, we're first looking back a little bit about what is the progress in the last maybe 7 years or 5 years. In the very beginning, all the IT infrastructure for public service mostly a separate, dedicated, isolated information island. The CIO target at some dedicated purpose and the design and the infrastructure, hardware, software layers, and the application about that to provide a direct service to some people. But after that, when we see we can using cloud computing technology to saving some money, so they began to concentrate all those applications together in one straight, flat hardware platform. After that, they say maybe we can accumulate the data together to make the program much easier. Then we began to do the data collection and the data consolidation to giving another layer about the hardware, some kind of a data abstraction layer to let everybody can write using same kind of programming model based on the data abstraction layer to design application. After that, when we gathered all data together, we find maybe we can create more active, more interesting application that can giving us much value, much higher quality of service to public. So that is what we call it the big data service today. Now we standing at the gate or one foot already inside the gate of big data. It's a big data era. So when we're looking back, we see the IT infrastructure for public service utilized the cloud computing technology and the big data technologies through several phases. The first phase is the business driving phase. The second phase is we call it the data fusion phase. The third phase is data driving phase. For the first phase, we can see the characterized of the application system is pretty much like a vertical one. It's in a lot of different applications. Even there was in same organization, same industry, or same area of a government department, they are separate. They're using their dedicated servers, using their dedicated software layers, using their dedicated applications to do the job, to do the transactions, to do the data processings. They are separate. They are isolated information island. They are not connected together. So that is the problem. But at the very beginning, when we began to using IT infrastructure to take the advantage of the efficiency of computer, that is not a big deal. After that, we found the benefits of the cloud computing. It means that we can gather all the applications, put them in the same platform. We call it as a cloud computing platform using virtualization technology and data virtualization, storage virtualization technology to giving them a computing pool, storage pool, and a network pool to let them running on the platform. So in this phase, we began to concentrate all the applications in one data center. After that, we found if we put all those data together, if we have ability to analyze a different dimension of data, we can create more value, we can find interesting roles, we can find more deeply meaning in those data. Then we step into the data driving phase. Data driving phase is giving us a door to a new creative computing utilization area. So if we're looking at this, if we step into this section, we will see we still have some challenge we have to face. The first challenge is for public service, they're mostly for example, in different industry. For example, telecommunication is one section, and public health service is another section, and for the water supply service another section, public insurance another section, taxation is some part of government, and even in the same organization, they'll also be separated into several sections, pretty much like in the area of the traffic management, the traffic light control, the traffic surveillance, the recording of GPS of public vehicles. This all belong to different departments or belong to different sections. If we want to concentrate, if we want to put them together, there will always be a barrier between those organizations. Another one is about how we store and manage the huge data in one platform. That is a main. Maybe today we set up a system. Next day it looks like a long time we do not have enough room to store them. And then another thing is about the visualization. Visualization is always be the biggest thing we should consider. So there is some solution of big data plans can help us to do that. And we're using this kind of technology to handle and showcase about this local traffic management system. They all have the problems we just mentioned and challenges we mentioned before. And what we've done is the first in the very beginning, there are vertical applications. The first thing we do is the first thing we do is we build up an IaaS platform to pulling the computing power, pulling the storage, and pulling the internet and the connection. And then we porting all the applications about it and do not touch the application itself. We do not modify that. Then we introduce a new data set into this platform, and we create more interesting application about that. So it's pretty much like we can organize the road information, weather information, hotspot information, accident information to creatively create an algorithm using on-time, real-time data analysis technology to manage the traffic. So if we want to say in the future how we do for the big data, the first thing is we should encourage government to invest in this area, and we should encourage the government regarding the data as a strategy resource. The secondly is we should set up some regulation to giving the chance to giving the industry and the government to share data each other. And for conclusions, I think we should do not design the vertical, the isolated vertical application anymore. When we begin to do more applications, we should using a flat data platform to create all the new applications, especially in a developing country. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks to Ms. Hu's speech. Cloud computing and big data is a popular topic in the internet community and society. From his speech, we can say that the big data is a really resource for the organization and the society if we process them properly. Thank you again. I think till now, all the speakers have finished their speech. Next will be the time for questions and discussions. Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is from the United Nations ESCWA in Beirut, Lebanon. I guess my question has to do with the measurement. We're talking about big data, government data. That when we say data, there are statistics and conclusions and trends and aggregations that will stem from such data. And we know that in every country of the world there are a national statistical department or national statistical authority where they do that classical manipulation of data. They gather the data in a classical manner and they do analysis and reporting also in a classical manner. So and at certain point in time in the future, I think this question will come out. How will the government handle such data for policy making, for planning, for development issues? Until now, the way I see it is that we are just pulling out a computer programmer pulling out data from servers and throwing the data on the table. So this is the missing link in my judgment, because I want the real policymakers in the ministries of planning, trade, transport, water, electricity, all the line ministries, I want them to benefit from the big data and the cloud data. Thank you.
So I think I can take the question. The thing is, I think the big data in one side, giving an unified platform to store all different kind of data, that is giving us a much easier way to access different kind of data and combine them together to figure out what is the much deep meaning of those data. That is different than before. And another thing is, I want to say, if we're using big data technology, it will helping us to do more real-time or close real-time analysis. That is unique, statistic is pretty much like, we do it for a month at a time, a week at a time, or a quarter at a time, or yearly, right? The real time is pretty much like we're looking at the meter of your car to see what is the current situation right now, how we can handle it, how we can giving some other kind of inputs to adjust the direction or let it running more smoothly. So this is why we encourage the governments and the public service sector to share data together. And we see, for the example of the traffic management, and they now using the real-time data analysis to adjust the traffic light time slots, the red light, green light time slots, to actively respond to the traffic in a day in different times. So if we have looking at a big picture, looking at the country, looking at the whole economy situation right now, if we can combine all the data we right now have in a common platform, it will be very interesting. I do not know if there any company or any country begin to do this, but it's definitely have a very big potential to go forward in that direction. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you for questions. I also have some comments. Actually, in recent several months, I also attended many conferences about big data. As you see, every government sector said also big data is very important, but this means I want to grasp the data resources. And many conferences when we just as I said, talking about big data, they also want to grasp the data resources, and I think maybe it's very hard to find a solution for these questions. But one of our professors, Professor Liu Chuang, and maybe will give us the first step to share the data. And the workshop 70 at about 4:30 this afternoon. And Professor Liu will share their first step to share the experiments of his first step to share the data, the geodata in the just as I said, workshop 70. Maybe you can want to go to the workshop. Thank you very much.
Do we have a question from remote?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a question from the remote participant. The question is for Professor Tao. And the question is, as you have mentioned on slide 4, various heterogeneous wireless networks, such as secure networks, WIAN, visible light communication networks, etc., are able to support mobile internet. And convergence of these heterogeneous networks is supposed to be achieved in the future. Are there any corresponding work in China, any development or difficulties?
Okay, thank you very much. And I think this question is a little bit technical. And I think nowadays, I remember the slide maybe show a big basic scheme of our national 5G program. And I want to give a solution for supporting very high data rate. For example, maybe 10 times than 4G. So first we should have a scheme, and then we verify, and then maybe standardization. I think maybe in the near future, not only big data, but also mobile internet sometimes need a very high data rate. So our government launched a program named 5G. Of course, this kind of program also welcome cooperation, especially overseas. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for the discussion and questions, but I think the time is up. So finally, I would like to take a few minutes to conclude this workshop. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending our workshop this afternoon. Now 4 speakers have discussed how to leverage the cloud computing and the mobile internet from different perspectives. From these speeches and discussion, we can see that it is necessary for all of us to promote the new technology, new emerging technology, such as cloud computing, mobile internet, even the big data, in the societies and the communities. The second one is leveraging the cloud computing services and its benefits will be helpful to bridge the digital divide, both in developing countries and developed countries. The third one is we can say cooperation among multi-stakeholders will be the right solution and the right direction to the challenge and difficulties facing by cloud computing, big data, and mobile internet, this new emerging technology. Also, it is a great pleasure for me to moderate this session. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all of these panelists for their contributions. Also, for thanks to the comments and discussion from the audience. Now, I would like to call session closed. Thank you. Finally, I would like to invite the Executive Secretary of of China Association for Science and Technology, Mr. Wu Haiying, to present the lecture gift to them. Okay.